Welcome to That Seasonaire podcast. I'm your host Gina. Stick with me as I chat to seasonaires, expats and adventurers across the world sharing their inspiring stories and interesting insights into living and working abroad. On today's show, I catch up with former Seasonaire and Aussie legend, the one and only Maxi Gering.
So many of those days in that rental, like we're not even working on the weekdays. We're just sat there on computers doing whatever, waiting to go snowboarding. And it's like, great, that's awesome in the Seasonaire scheme of things. Like you got the job that pays all right and you get the place to live.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable at all. And that really got to me.
Tune in as we hear the highs and lows of Maxi's journey across Canada, Austria and New Zealand, and stick with us right to the end of the show as we find out how Maxi went from working in a hot dog stand in Mayrhofen to joining the corporate world at Vimeo. This podcast is supported by Dope Snow, who are hosting an open rail jam here in Mayrhofen on the 11th of January. Join the crew up at the Penguin Park for prizes, giveaways and a whole host of good vibes. Check out the show notes below for links to their full events calendar of rail jams, coaching clinics and festivals. Here's the show. Maxi Gering. Is it Gering or Gering?
No, you said it right the first time.
Did I?
Yeah, no one gets it right. I get Gering.
I smashed it.
Yeah.
I never get it right.
Yeah, earring with a G. You nailed it.
That's amazing. Well, Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure to have you back in Europe, of course. You are residing in Australia, right?
At the moment, not quite.
Oh, okay.
I have been for 3 years.
Gina, do your research?
No, not at all. Like this is new information. We're fine. I've just left.
Okay.
Kind of permanently, but I have been back for 3 years.
Okay.
The longest time in Aussie for a long time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to have you back anyway. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what are you doing with yourself at the minute?
Cool. So I'm from Sydney, from Australia, and yeah, I kind of grew up all around Sydney, all over in a number of different suburbs, getting into skating and surfing all over the place. Bit of time in New Zealand. That's where kind of snowboarding started. We can get into that later. And at the moment, I'm cruising around Europe. I was here for a wedding, and I'm just visiting, catching up with friends that I haven't seen in a while. And then I'll be heading down to South America in like 2 weeks for like 2 months of their winter to catch the end of it, and then just travel around a bit. Cool. Continent I haven't seen yet. Yeah, super excited. That's
so cool. Awesome. We know each other from you doing seasons here in Mayrhofen. That's where we met. So I thought, seeing as you're back well, I didn't even know actually. I just reached out to you, didn't I? And I was like, do you want to come on the show? And you're like, yeah, I'm going to be there. So should we do it in person? I was like, stoked. But yeah, so we know each other from you doing seasons here in Mayrhofen. But just tell us a bit about how you got into doing seasons in the first place. Was that like always the plan?
Not at all. So yeah, I loved snowboarding ever since I started it when I was 9 years old in New Zealand. I had this little 130 centimeter K2 thing that was like my life. I slept with it. We went down to Queenstown, Mount Hart, and I was obsessed. And then when we went back to Aussie, I'd be nagging the parents to go down to Thredbo and Perisher and like, let's go. And then when I was old enough to go with friends, we went down as much as we could.
Cool.
And then when I was finishing up school, the idea was to go travel for a year, do a world trip. My brother had done that. A lot of other friends had done that around Europe, America, South America. And I'd never heard of doing a season.
Really?
Like, it didn't cross my mind at all. I didn't know it was a thing. And I was in Queenstown on a holiday with my brother. I was 18. Super stormy day. He didn't want to go up. He was lazy. I went up by myself, and I got sat next to this guy, and we just got chatting about all things. And he was telling me when he was younger, he went and did seasons where you just snowboard every day and work. I was like, you're kidding me. No way. Like in Canada and America, like all these places, like, yeah, man, like I did it all over. And I was like, are you joking? And then I got talking to people back in Sydney, and like a friend of a friend was going to go back to Canada to do his first season. And I was like, cool, I can go be a lifty. I can go do this.
Yeah.
And I was getting super excited. And then these opportunities came up to do like an instructor's course that is crazy overpriced, but I was like, screw it, it's a goal, I'll save up for it, I'll do it.
Yeah, nice.
And they set you up with like a job if you pass the course, a place to live, And so that was pretty much it. I saved
Really?
up for a year after high school and moved to Canada.
Did you go and work somewhere to like earn money before your season, or what were you doing in between school and going out on your first season?
Yeah, so when I went on that trip to Queenstown, I was still in school and I was doing my HSC, which is like your A levels in the UK. And I was working at the cinemas. I started working there when I was like 14, and that kind of went on like all throughout school. And I just worked full time at Hoyts at the cinemas for that last year in Sydney, when everyone else was doing uni and starting all of that. And I was like, I'm leaving. Get me out of here, kind of thing.
Did you ever have any plans to go to uni or anything?
No.
You didn't have plans that you were just like, I'm out of here?
At that age, it didn't cross my mind. Like my mum told me at the end of year 10, so I was 16, she's like, you shouldn't do year 11 and 12.
Really?
Yeah, she was like, you should drop out and go do shit. And I was like, no, but I want to do it. I want to finish high school. And so I did it. And then like we've had conversations since, and I'm like, you were right. Like I should have just gone and started doing seasons and fun shit from 16.
What? Why did your mum have that idea? I mean, that is great, but yeah, like how come your mum feels that way about it?
She's in alternative education, put it like that. And I think from what I was going to learn from 11 and 12 wasn't huge. And in hindsight, it wasn't. I finished high school. That's great. But how I could have been spending that time could have been a lot more useful. Yeah. And I think, to the uni thing, that 12 years of being in school, like that was heavy for me. Like going to do something every day I didn't want to do when there was so much fun stuff to do. And also being like dragged around different suburbs in Sydney and like moving from friend groups, moving to New Zealand, getting taken around everywhere. Yeah. I'd lived in like 18 houses or something.
Oh, really?
By my 18th birthday, and like 5 schools, and it was just like all over the place. Yeah. But I think that got ingrained in me, the constant moving and grass is always greener and keep searching, which is like a blessing and a curse. I don't know.
That's so nice. Yeah. That's cool. Very cool. Awesome. So you were going out to Canada?
Yes.
On your first season. Did you have to do much in the way of like visas or anything to go out there?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't really know what the deal is with Aussies and Canada. No idea.
Yeah. So when I got it, it was awesome. And it was super easy to do, and you could get 3 2-year visas. The January, so I got there in November. 2 months later, in January of the next year, they announced that Aussies only get 1 2-year visa.
Oh, really?
And so I'm assuming, and I assumed then up till now, 9 years ago now, that I still have another 2-year because that changed after.
Okay.
And I'm kind of banking on that for the future. I haven't looked into this. This is a bad habit of mine, but I'm hoping it's a thing. Yeah. Well,
fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. But the actual process of getting the visa was chill. Like that was fine. And yeah, that wasn't too bad. It was just going through the motions, police checks, that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, you've saved up to go on your first season and you go to Canada. Where was it? Whistler?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tell us about your first season then.
So the first season was, it was pretty incredible. It was the worst season they'd had in 20 years. And I was just like a kid in a candy store. I was really? This is the best thing ever.
The worst as in snow or?
Yeah, worst is in snow. It was icy. It was raining. Like on the west coast of British Columbia, they get like, it's super wet snow. And so they get all sorts of crazy weather conditions. And it was horrible. And everyone spent the whole season being like, oh, this is so bad. I'm so sorry you're here in your first season. I'm like, this is great. Like I'm snowboarding every day. I'm learning so much from people around me. Like I'm teaching people, which was a crazy experience as well. I had such a good time, like living on the mountain in staff housing, snowboarding down to work in the morning. It was super cool.
So when you did your instructor training, was that something you did before your seasons that wasn't on the season?
Yeah, this was something that I did. So we got to Canada and then it was like 3 weeks of intense training with a test at the end of it.
Right.
And the preparation for that was like we were going for a job at Whistler Blackcomb. So I had interviews at like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning with like the head of the snow school when I was still back in Australia, doing the job interview pretty much so that if I did pass it, I had the job.
Oh, okay, yeah. Cool.
Which is it was cool, but it was a super weird experience being there when like people are paying, you know, like grown-ups. And at the time I was still not one. I was 19. Yeah. It was super weird. And they're paying hundreds of dollars just for me for the day. Whoa. And I was like, they're staring at me and I need to make the jokes and I need to be there and entertain and make sure everyone's having fun.
Yeah. Mad. So 19 and you're already instructing.
Yeah. It was a lot. And I told like everyone that season, they asked me, because it's the first thing they ask. They're like, how long have you been doing this? And I'm like, oh yeah, 2-3 years. Yeah. Like you have to, you can't say, oh, this is like my 8th day on the job, but I know what I'm doing. It was interesting. And this is like one of the tips that some of the other like instructors had given us. They're like, don't tell them it's your first year.
Really?
Yeah, fully. You can't.
You've done the training, you've got the qualifications, like.
Yeah, with close to no experience. And it's a super interesting like dynamic, this being a good snowboarder and a good instructor. Like they're so different. Yeah. And I think there's a few people I've come across who are just incredible teachers, and they've got their 3 or 4 people in their group and they know how to manage all of them and what works for all of them. And then there's a lot of instructors who are they're doing demos. And they're like, do it like this, no, do it like this.
Yeah.
And being like overly supportive and like, oh, one more try. And it's like, I don't know. It's hard to kind of find your niche there and to figure out all the different people and what's going to work for them.
What was your living situation and stuff like that?
So I was living in like staff housing, and it was like 4 of us, 2 people in each room. That was kind of fine. Yeah. And it was kind of cheap then. And it was okay that first winter. And like some of the people who live in that hallway are still like good friends to this day.
Really?
Yeah. There was like all of us living in the one place. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'd say the highlights would be the snowboarding with those groups. Yeah. That wasn't teaching. So we'd have like awesome perks as instructors where we'd get to go up the mountain at 7:45 in the morning and do like 3 or 4 laps before they opened it to the public.
Nice.
And obviously that's a lot more special. Like on the second season when the snow was amazing, that was insane to go up and have like open runs with like 20 centimeters of fresh and to like have it to yourself. Yeah. It was insane before a day's work. Yeah.
Unreal. How many kind of snowboarding holidays and stuff have you done? Had you been going year on year since you were a kid?
Yeah.
So you're a pretty good level of snowboarder, and then you did your snowboard instructing, and so you were able to really enjoy those POW days.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't ride powder for shit.
Oh, really?
No, I couldn't properly. Like in my head, I was really good up until I was 14.
Okay.
And then we went on school camp and I was 15, and this like German instructor at Threadbow like really put me in my place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and said like, you've got all these bad habits, like you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. And I was like, oh shit. And then reality set in. I was like, all right, I'm not that good. But I still love it. And then, that was one of my favorite things about teaching is what you can learn from it. Yeah.
Cool. That was the winter. Where did you go for summer?
So I stayed in Whistler for the whole summer. And that was like the best decision I could have made. Everyone, like I was leaving and I was like, I'm going for 6 months. And this is the story of every Australian in Whistler, which is pretty much everyone in Whistler, unfortunately. But everyone's like, I'm going for 6 months. And then I'm still here 18 years later. It's like sick. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But everyone's like, you got to stay for summer. It's so much better than winter. And I'm this kid who's obsessed with snowboarding. Like, no way it's going to be better. Like, that was so sick. And then summer is just like off its head.
Really?
Like, it is so much fun. I got a job as like a zipline guide, which was just so out of, I had like a few friends who did it. They were like, you should apply. I was like, all right.
What?
Next thing I know, I'm like taking people down super long zip lines above trees through the valleys of Whistler. It's like, it was crazy.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was like 10 hours a day, however many days a week. And then we'd go and like camp and hike and climb every night. And it's just like...
It's a 19, 20-year-old's dream, isn't it?
Yeah, like, fully. Like, it was literally
Imagine
our job.
That. 19 years old and your job's a zipline instructor.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? And like looking back on it now, I'm like, that is so random. But in the moment, I was like, this is normal. This is fine.
Yeah.
And we'd have these American families come on tour and we'd have like so much fun with them. And they're like, bro, I can't believe you're doing this for your life. And we're like, yeah, like it's feels pretty normal. I don't know. They're like, I wish I could do this. Like, it's so funny.
It's true though. Like everyone that comes on the show, when I ask people to come on the show, and yourself included, I think, is like, I don't really think I'm that interesting. But like to other people, our lifestyle is super interesting. But when you're doing it, you're like, this is just normal. This is like just what I do now.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating, honestly. And you're in it and you're in the thick of it. And I think it's super important to take a step back.
Definitely.
Like a lot and just like like reassess, but also just like be super grateful for it that you like get to hang out in the mountains all day with your friends. And,
100%. Yeah. Like I do that quite often. I have to like take a step back and just be like, what? Like just look around. You see something amazing. Like everywhere you look outside, the nature is just incredible. Yeah, feel incredibly lucky. So I do have to check myself quite often with that.
Yeah, big time. But it like takes these people a lot of the time to remind you of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you get so bogged down in it and you're working this job that doesn't pay anything and like you had a bad day up the mountain and you're like, oh, this is hard. And don't get me wrong, there's super hard times as well.
Yeah.
But just to remind yourself that it's pretty awesome. It's being special. In nature all day.
Yeah, for sure. Any other highlights from the summer in Canada? You said they did a bit camping and stuff like that. Were you mountain biking or anything like that over there?
I was, yeah. So I got that downhill biking. That's like that's crazy.
I know.
That, like compared to any other sport I've done, it's so insane. And how they just like throw you in the deep end.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. So I got this, like an average price for a good downhill bike in Canada at the time was like around $5,000. And I found this secondhand one from 2007 that was $400. And this was like my first day on it.
Okay.
And so I went up with a few friends who really knew what they were doing. And it was like a little bit slippery, pretty rainy. And like they knew me from winters and I worked with them like doing the zip line thing. And they were like, you'll be fine. Like just use your brakes. Like look where you're going.
Those friends.
Lean back. Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. You'll be sweet. Yeah. And we end up having the gnarliest day, and they take me down it's called A-Line in Whistler, which is like this black run with loads of jumps and like rolls and everything. And I've never felt that like nervous tired before. Like I had that day. It was just insane. Like everything was shaking. My brain was just completely fried. It was so much fun, but it was just...
You feel your energy like depleting.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how am I going to get down this?
Yeah. But at the same time, it's just like so much fun.
Yeah.
And when you get used to some of the runs and you know where the berms are coming and the jumps and how much like speed to hit certain things with, it gets so much fun.
Amazing. Yeah. I was talking to, as I was saying, Steep
the
other day for the other podcast that I'm working on. And he is Canadian and he's just got into mountain biking as well.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, you should try it. I'm like, I really do want to try it, but I'm 39. So I'm like, I don't know if my bones can take it anymore.
Yeah. It's crazy how like the smallest of little mistakes and you're just like, you're in a tree or something. Yeah. It's not like you just fall down when you're skiing or snowboarding.
Yeah.
It's like a little bump. And they were always my worst crashes on bikes were like the small ones when you get a little bit overconfident on a super easy run.
Yeah.
And you slide out or something like that. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah. I'm working up to maybe trying it at some point in my life, but we'll see.
Yeah. There's some good like trails around Innsbruck and stuff that seem fairly like flowy and kind of chill that you can take at your own pace.
Maybe at some point I'll go on one of the easy trails, but anyway, back to you. So after Canada, where did you head after that?
I came here. I came to Mayrhofen. And that was super random. I'd got my like a European passport in summer of 2015. I got a Hungarian passport.
Yeah. So how did you get a Hungarian? I remember this now. This has just come back to me. How did you get a Hungarian passport?
So my grandparents pretty much like escaped. They're from Hungary and they escaped after the Holocaust. And it's a gnarly story of how they ended up in Sydney, but it happened and I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
And pretty much now I've got this passport. I've now left Australia.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. I make the most of it.
Wow. So you got your Hungarian passport and then you came over. Why Austria? Why did you come here?
So because I had that passport, I was like, I can go do a season in Europe, easy, anywhere.
Yeah.
And then I just started assessing options. I was like Switzerland, Austria, Italy, France, and just started talking to people in Canada.
Okay.
Austria seemed like the best place for what I wanted to do, for snowboarding, for, finding work. It seemed like there's some really cool options here. And a good friend of mine, Kiwi girl, Nat, she'd done seasons here years ago in Mayrhofen, and she was like, you should go for sure. And pretty much just off that, I was like, all right, like I'll go. I didn't know a single person here, and I came with 1,000 Canadian dollars, so like 700 euros, and just slowly figured stuff out. And it didn't help that I don't know if I think you've had Stu on the podcast.
Stu Innes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if he told this story of how we all got scammed that season by some guy here with an apartment.
I think he did. Yeah, I think he did go through that story on the podcast. Yeah.
So they got like him, Fletcher, Austin, and myself all paying for like rent. And the place just didn't exist. So that didn't help as well. I was supposed to come and move into this place.
Oh my God. It was a place in Mayrhofen.
Yeah, behind Manny's.
How did you find this guy?
So it was on Facebook.
Right.
And I was just like, I messaged him, we started talking, and he starts going on about snow bombing and how him and his 3 friends have done heaps of years and they know all the things and all of this stuff. And I don't know anything. I'd never been here before. And so I'm like, cool, this sounds awesome. Like, how much money? This much? He's like, you got to send me the full winter's rent. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I don't have that money right now. And then I ended up sending him just like 2 months rent, which was like 1,000 Canadian. And I think the other 2 paid the full 5 months, unfortunately.
My God.
Yeah. And if you've met Fletch, he was fuming.
I bet he was.
He was not happy.
Absolute legend. But
Yeah, big time. So I was
wouldn't
like,
want to piss off that little badger.
No. And yeah, in the years to come, I definitely saw people piss him off, and they were not happy about it. But then so it's pretty much I landed in Innsbruck. I had a week there, and I didn't know what I was going to do up here. I was like, I've got no job, nowhere to live. I don't know a soul, and pretty much I got saved by the gas stuff. Like, I got a job there and a place to live, and it was like an awesome few months of, it was like 5 or 6 of us living in one hostel room in the gas stuff, and all just doing like whatever throughout the day, like fixing walls and like putting flooring down with zero experience. And it was just like the classic gas stuff, like super funny.
Classic gas stuff story. Like, it's almost like a rite of passage to everyone that's been on the podcast.
Yeah. Like, everyone started there.
This guy then who was like scamming you, did you ever find him, or like, does he exist? Is it a person in Mayrhofen or just some random...
He's this English dude on Facebook. His name is Damien Chaplin, for anyone listening.
Oh my God.
If you know him.
Damien
let
Chaplin.
us know.
You're a twat.
Yeah, message Gina, let us know.
Let us know where you are. You owe some money to some of my friends.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you got here, you're at the gas stove.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's where you start meeting people. Was Stu there as well, and Fletch?
Stu wasn't. No, I think Stu got a room at Phil's in Schwendau.
Okay.
Because he was still, I think he was coaching then. So I think he was just living at Schwendau. But that's when, I met Fletcher. He like moved in a few days later, I think, into the gas stuff.
Right.
And Lee, Ray, Kenny, and then like Leonie and Irene as well.
So how was that first season in Mayrhofen? How'd you get on?
It was incredible. It was so different from Canada. It was just like, there was no rules. Anyone could do what they wanted.
What was the rules in Canada?
Oh, just like up on the mountain and going out and like partying and...
Oh, really?
When you're snowboarding, everything. Yeah, it was so different here. It was just, it was very loose.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Very loose, yeah. Mayrhofen is known for being quite a loose place, I guess. But Canada, they have like mountain police and stuff, right?
Yeah, like the slow down police. Yeah. They're like normally like 80-year-old volunteers who are great because, there's just so many people there, you know, that it gets hectic, and there's like families and everything. And I feel like in Europe, it's more just like, if shit happens, it's your fault. Don't be an idiot. And that's the same for pubs and bars here too, I guess. Yeah, it's like, if you drink too much, that's on you. Yeah. Like, we're not going to cut you off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they cut you off in Canada?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you'll get kicked out of places if you're too drunk. Same in Australia. Like, it's really bad there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I appreciate the European approach a lot more. Like, just learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, you like figure it out. Yeah, we're grown ups.
Have you figured it out?
You know, I'm yet to. Let me know if you have. Yeah.
I had to stop drinking.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I think I figured it out, but I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah. Well, I had a few alcohol-free beers last night. Nothing to be proud of, but I was like,
what are you doing? Like, you've changed.
Yeah, fully. It's just about maintaining that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're over here in Mayrhofen. Did you have any intention to do some instructing, or was it just mainly to work at the gas stuff and do that kind of thing?
I was pretty over instructing.
Oh, really?
At the end of Canada, I didn't really want to do it anymore.
Right.
There was a few parts of it that just didn't I didn't love. Like being up there on awesome days.
Yeah.
Teaching someone how to side slip and there's like 20 centimeters of snow and I'm like, this isn't what I want to be doing. And it kind of took the love of snowboarding away from me a little bit.
Yeah.
And the other side of it was a lot of the coaching and instructing for us when we weren't teaching was very like, it was kind of slow paced, which is fine because you're in groups. But I only really understood that when I came to Austria and I started snowboarding with, you know, like Amir, Fletcher, who are like really good. And they're like, just try this, just do that. And I was like, sick. Like we can hit these bigger jumps and we can try these things.
Nice.
And then, yeah, and that just changed the game completely. And it meant that every time I was snowboarding, it was always about fun and trying new things.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I didn't look into teaching here.
No.
The first few seasons.
Did you work at Gastoff that whole season?
No, that lasted a month or two, I think. And then I got a job at Harakiri. And I was living, I was in the hot dog stand a few nights. I was in the coat check thing a few nights. And that was horrible. Like I'd finish work at 3 a.m. I'd go back to my like basement apartment with no internet and no kitchen.
Oh my God.
And then try and wake up to go snowboarding the next day with no energy.
Oh no.
And so that lasted like a month.
Okay.
Until I got a job at Manny's doing like ski rental.
Of course, yeah. Cool. So then you went to work in the ski rental. How was that?
It was good. It was fast paced. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
It was like a full, like you lived with these people, you worked with them. Like it was a lot. Like we always hung out. We ate with each other. Like we got the dinners and the lunches and everything. But in terms of like a lifestyle, it was awesome. We got 3 or 4 hours off in the middle of the day every day to go snowboard. And we finished work at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So we could like kind of go out every night or do whatever in the evenings, but also snowboard every day. Yeah. And then we'd get 2 or 3 days off a week as well. And the actual work, like bits of it was kind of fun in fixing skis and snowboards. That was the nice part. The renting out stuff is just kind of mindless, but it was, you know, it served its purpose.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. And how long did you do that for? Was that for the rest of the season?
That was
several seasons.
Yeah. Multiple seasons. Yeah, it's just too good. You go back and you got a place to live with food and like this job where you snowboard. I was like, I did that for 3 winters at Manny's.
Yeah.
But that first one was kind of like a half winter, I guess.
Yeah. Because you're just finding your feet here in Mayrhofen.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, here's this, you know, the saving grace. Yeah. But that first winter was... I think looking back, and we've spoken about it with a few of us who were on that season, was so lucky that we all just did that season at the same time. And the way that like things worked out for all of us to be there for that one season. And I think it was just like a few who did the season before, but the majority of us were there that one season and came back for like 2 or 3. Yeah,
nice. You came here and did 3 winters, you say?
3 winters in Mayrhofen, yeah.
And what were you doing in between those winters?
So the first one, I just went traveling in the summer for a few months around Europe, kind of meeting up with people I'd met, which was awesome. That was my first real, like I'd been to to a number of countries, but that was the first real backpacking, like kind of experience I'd had. Yeah. I mean, there were some really weird experiences along that journey of like working in different places because I'd run out of money and I spent like 3 days working for a circus in like Cardiff with do you know Simon Wall?
Yeah.
So I went down to visit him.
I want to get Simon on the podcast.
You should.
Okay.
That would be super funny.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a legend.
He's been on my mind since the beginning, actually. Yeah. So I need to have a chat with him. But continue.
I haven't spoken to him in ages, actually. Yeah. So I went down. We were like demolishing caravans for this circus thing. And it was just, we were living in this like warehouse in the middle of Cardiff. It was so bizarre, but I just like I needed money, and I was like, and then I went on and did a few more, like another week or something before I completely ran out and had to run back to Australia. But then just went and worked there at some snow surf shop.
What, in Oz?
Yeah. And did like, I think I did a bit of snowboarding.
Okay.
I think I did a small amount, but I didn't really have any money. I was just saving up.
Have you ever done a season in Australia?
So when I got back from Corona, we're skipping ahead a bit here, but it was like 2020, I think it was, that I went down for 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay. Well, we can get onto that.
Yeah. So then I was like really considering if I was going to come back here or go do something else. And eventually, and then I was like, I need to go back. Like, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And then that second winter here was just like epic. It was like the best thing ever. Everyone had come back for the season. The snow was awesome.
Yeah.
Work was super chill. I was down at the other shop. Loads of partying, the Monday night beer pong thing. But it was a lot of fun that season. Yeah. And then at the end of that one, I was kind of like, I've got to go back. Yeah. Okay. So there was no doubt in my mind. Yeah.
So what was the plan after that?
So after that season, we were all just super amped. And I think I went to Russia for the World Cup for like a month. What? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we went and did this, like, the Soccer World Cup in Russia, which was so cool. Yeah. That was like all of my preconceptions about Russia were just like smashed. And It was so sick. Everyone was so like lovely that we met, and we went all around the country to all these different games. It was an incredible experience. Wow. Yeah. And then we went down to Wanaka for the season. And that was super different. It was really cool. It was like 5 or 6 of us in this house looking over the lake. It was pretty awesome.
For anyone who's listening, Wanaka is in New Zealand, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Yeah. Wanaka's like 45 minutes from Queenstown.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about Wanaka.
It's, one of the most beautiful towns I've been in, for sure. Like, it's situated on this lake, and you've got like your main 2 mountains there, Coronet Peak and Cardrona. Sorry, not Coronet Peak, Treble Cone. Treble Cone and Cardrona are based there, yeah. And Treble Cone's more like backcountry, and Cardrona's like parks, half pipes, where all the Olympians go for the summer. Cool. Yeah, incredible. Such a cool little town. Yeah. Yeah.
What was that season like? Did you have a lot of people there that you knew already, or was it like kind of making new friends? Because this was your first New Zealand winter.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. This was the first time I was there that I was, like living long term. And it was kind of like 6 of us living in this house, and we didn't do much socializing. Like, we didn't meet loads of other people. Like, we kind of just stayed in our group, which in hindsight wasn't the best idea. It was pretty awesome. Yeah. Just kind of like snowboarding most days. I think I injured my back really badly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, no. And I didn't snowboard for loads that winter. Yeah. So I was just kind of like going to work and then getting up when I could. But it was a super fun crew. There was like a couple of Canadian guys we lived with who were legends, like super loose. Nice. It was super funny.
What were you doing for work in New Zealand?
I was a barista.
Ah, okay. Bit different again then.
Yeah, so I was like biking to work at like 5 a.m, pitch black, freezing cold, to like slave through a day of baristing to like baristing.
Is that a word? It could be.
Yeah, surely. Yeah. And then, so that was a lot of day work, which was an interesting one. And then kind of going home and chilling or going out, whatever it was. Okay. Lots of skating that winter too. Then I was tossing up whether to go back for my 3rd season or not, or whether we were going to go somewhere else. And I was like, no, we'll go back.
To Mayrhofen.
Yeah. That was after, because the season before was epic, and I was like, we'll go back. And then that 3rd season was just all a bit too much of the same. Okay. And a few people were coming back, and that's when the change kind of started in. I can see the pattern of this like forming, and this is just going to be it now. And living in a house with heaps of people started frustrating me, and like all the dramas going on with that, and like it definitely changed a lot. Yeah, it just wasn't the one. And I think there was some really good snow days, and we got down and went on some adventures like to Innsbruck and that sort of thing. But I definitely started having that itching feeling of like you got to start doing something with your life, like not go get some fancy job or whatever, but just like have a bit of a goal, a purpose, something, because it's not just snowboarding every day is so much fun, but there's got to be more meaning behind it.
Exactly. Yeah. There's kind of like that familiar feeling, isn't there, of coming back to the same place. So you come back to Mayrhofen because a lot of the time for people it feels like home to go back to the same place. You've got the community and stuff, but it is picking the easy route, isn't it? It's picking the easy route over challenging yourself to something new. So
It really is. And especially with that job as well, where I could just walk back into it and it's like
comfortable.
Yeah. And like so many of those days in that rental, like we're not even working on the weekdays. We're just sat there on computers doing whatever, waiting to go snowboarding. And it's like, great, that's awesome in the Seasonaire scheme of things. Like you got the job that pays all right and you get the place to live.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable at all. And that really got to me. Yeah. And I think a big part of it was that a lot of my friends were a little bit older. They'd been to university and they'd done degrees or they've got a trade or something like that. And I never did any of that. I just finished school and went and started doing seasons. Right. And I think that started creeping up on me a bit more, that I didn't know what the other side was like.
Oh, so you started thinking about goals and purpose and things like that?
Yeah. And that's when the university thing started popping into my head a lot. Courses, uni, jobs, all of this thing, like the existential, what am I going to do? Yeah. Like, what are my skills? What do I like doing? All of this. And then my head started going everywhere. I was like, I got no idea. I need to go traveling again. I need to figure all this stuff out. But I think a big part of this throughout that whole experience is it's hard to have that clarity and to think like that when you've got no money and you're doing seasons and you're just like, and then a lot of people, they just go home and they're like, okay, I've got to go back and figure shit out, make some money. Because you just can't think straight when you don't know when your next paycheck's coming. So at that point, I was like, after that winter, the idea was to go to Africa for the whole summer to volunteer and just like see a new place. And I've always found that going traveling by yourself, you learn so much about, the world, but about yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Like being just on your own and having to make every decision with nothing planned, where you're going to eat, where you're going to go next, how long you're going to stay somewhere, without having to worry about anyone else. Like you learn so much. And so I knew I needed to go do that. Unfortunately, like I spent way too much on this trip with like an ex-girlfriend around Italy.
Okay.
And so I had to go work in Norway for most of the summer, which was a crazy experience as well. And then, so I saved up there for like 3 months just out of Oslo. And then I got down to Africa for like a month.
Okay.
And that was, not as long as I liked, but in hindsight, it taught me a hell of a lot. And
really?
it was pretty cool.
What were you doing there?
So I spent it was like 2 weeks in Kenya and 2 weeks in Tanzania. The first week in Kenya was pretty much just like, it was like working in a slum with like a group of kids, most of which couldn't afford to go to school. And they were hanging out in this slum all day. And affording school there means $50 for 12 years. Like not each year, but for the whole 12 years. Because they're all Christian schools there, so you need a uniform, which is just bizarre to me that education is free, but these kids don't get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'd be like hanging out doing, activities with them, gardening, lessons, Dr. Seuss books, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And just like meeting different families who live there, and it's so shocking.
Yeah.
Like it's something else.
Wow.
The guy I was like living and working with, he grew up in the slum, and Matt was one of the few, a rare one, who managed to get out of there. So we were living on the outer skirts and going in each day, and he ran this youth movement that was, pretty incredible.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that was pretty shocking. And then the week after I went out to Rasinga Island, which is on like Lake Victoria, and there we were just living with a family and helping them.
All right.
And that was interesting. That was just like not normal, but it was just like a traveling experience, going to get water every day from the lake with the donkeys and we were like teaching kids how to play soccer in this movement. And it was really, I think a big part of that volunteering in third world countries, a lot of that people go do because they have a feeling that they need to help and they need to make a difference. And the reality is, it's like, it's not the case. It's more for yourself, and like appreciate that and go do it. And it's incredible for you. In a lot of cases, like even if you make some cool advertisement or content or start like some crowdfunding thing, sure, it's like it'll help a little bit.
Yeah.
It really will. In 9 out of 10 cases, things will keep going on the way they were.
Yeah.
And don't go with the mindset that you're going to create real change and that you're going to help, even if you go like for a while. I don't know. Yeah.
Did you kind of have that expectation before you went, or were you kind of like level-headed about it?
I was very much aware of the fact that it wasn't going to be a huge thing if I'm going for a month. It was more for, helping my understanding of the way that less fortunate people live.
Well, it must have been a really humbling experience.
Big time. Yeah. And made me very lucky for my childhood and where I could be. And then it was 2 weeks in Tanzania, which was 9 days in Moshi, which Moshi is the town at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro, which is incredible. What they don't tell you is that Kilimanjaro is covered by clouds for like all the time, pretty much.
Right.
And so you can never see the mountain, which is pretty sad. But we went on some really cool trips around there. We were working for this bike center community place that like fixes the locals' bikes, and they teach them how to bike, and they take people on tours and all this stuff, and they do like recycle tours and everything. It was pretty cool. And yeah, some awesome adventures around the base of Kilimanjaro and like waterfalls and hikes and all of that.
Yeah.
Beautiful part of the world.
Amazing.
Yeah.
While you were there, did you kind of get what you wanted from that experience? Like, did you kind of figure out some stuff and like what you wanted to do next?
It's a really good question. And I think I'll say no. I don't think it did. I had already kind of planned what I was doing when I was coming back, and that was in my head.
Right.
And I think I learned a lot from that in hindsight, being like, it was just like ticking a box and doing that thing. I don't like the idea of going on these trips anymore where there's like a time limit on them. If you're visiting friends, sure, if you're doing that kind of thing. But if you're going for a real experience, you got to go with like enough time to stay somewhere longer, create real relationships, get to know a place properly. And it was all kind of go, go, go. And a lot of that I spent thinking about the next bus to the next place or how to get to the next location, whatever it was.
And you said you went to Oslo before that to earn the money to go. Is that right?
Yeah.
What were you doing in Oslo?
I was like an hour south of Oslo. It's in this town called Tønsberg.
Okay.
And I was working as like a bartender and waiter, which was pretty interesting because I didn't speak Norwegian and I had to learn super quick.
Oh, yeah?
And like I picked it up way faster than German.
Oh, really?
I'd been like
That's
in Austria for so long.
Yeah.
But there I had to speak with like, I'd go up to like tables of 10 people and have to like introduce myself and ask what drinks they wanted, food and everything.
Okay, cool.
And a lot of them would like let me go the whole time. Like Norwegians speak pretty good English, so it was fine in most cases. But yeah, there was some funny interactions where I'd get like screamed at by old Norwegian people.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't know what like their local liqueur was.
Oh.
And they're like, have you heard of Akevitt?
No, it's not ringing a bell.
It's similar to like Fernet Branca. And like he was like screaming this out. He's like a table of like 6 of these old Norwegian guys, and he's like screaming. I'm like, I don't know. And he's like looking at me like I'm an idiot, and I have to go back and like ask the bartender. It's pretty fun. God. Yeah. But I learned some Norwegian. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of laughs. Yeah. And a few trips up to Oslo to visit like Em and Shiv and stuff. It was fun.
Awesome. So after Africa, you kind of had this experience. What were your plans from there?
So then I was coming back for the 4th season, and I was pretty done with, like, I wanted to do something a bit different. So the plan was to move to Innsbruck and to start this kind of coaching organization with Diego, Milky Snow Sports.
Yep.
And I was going to do like a month or 2 of coaching for Phil. For the, like, he has the instructor program where they teach people how to pass their course. Yeah. And so I did that for a month, living in Mayrhofen whilst looking for a place to live in Innsbruck. And that was interesting. That was cool. Some really cool people on that course. I loved getting back into teaching, and it was with people who really wanted to learn. It wasn't like a few people who were there for 2 or 3 days. It was these people who were like, they were committed to snowboarding, and they wanted to be, they wanted to be teachers, and it was cool. We had a lot of fun.
Awesome. So you found a place in Innsbruck, did you? And
yeah, it was like, I think I moved in like December or something in like this apartment with a few people a few of which are really good friends still to this day. Yeah. And this was like 3 years ago or something. And that season was pretty full on because it was a lot of figuring out the coaching thing with Diego and like coming to and from Mayrhofen whilst bartending at Hard Rock Cafe. Like I couldn't just afford to be doing the coaching thing. And I think, we were in 2 mindsets about the whole thing. Whereas, for me, it was, this is fun. Like I get to start this thing with a really good friend of mine. And Diego was at a different point where he was like, this is my life. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to start this thing.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while to kind of understand that. And then Diego took the reins. Like, we had a couple of difficult conversations and he was like, he's going to do it. I'm like, no worries. And I just kind of taught with him, but it was his thing from then on. Yeah.
So how was the winter in Innsbruck? How did that differ from Mayrhofen?
Yeah, it was very different, very small mountains there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's a lot of park, it's a lot of fun. But compared to like Zillertal, where there's huge runs and some of the most amazing off-piste I've ever seen.
Really?
It was a lot of like park and it was a lot of fun. I was going to and from so much that I got to ride here loads. I didn't really ingrain myself in the Innsbruck community as much as I would have liked.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't give it a proper chance at
No.
all. Yeah, because of the back and forth. And literally
busy.
I'd get a call on a break at work being like, oh, we need a 2-hour lesson tomorrow. Like someone from Manny's would like be like, can you teach this person tomorrow for 2 hours? I'm like, yep. And jump on a train in the morning, come up, go back, work again. It was a lot.
What was your plans from there on then? So obviously you wanted a goal, you wanted something to work towards. So what was the plan?
It's an interesting question. And I think it was more the idea of doing something different and being a part of something and creating something more so than teaching again.
Okay.
Like big time. Like it was cool. Like, sorting a lot of the things out with the business, how we were going to do things, getting other instructors involved, that kind of thing was exciting. I like being super busy.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in it as much as Diego.
Yeah.
He loves teaching. He's so good at it. And that kind of speaks in volumes about like how successful something's going to be, like a business, you know? And yeah, I didn't want the responsibility and loads of work and all of that. And that's okay now. Yeah. I learned that. That's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So obviously back then you were kind of looking for a purpose and a goal. Was there anything that you were planning to work towards from there on, or did that come to you, what it was that you wanted to do?
Not at all.
Has it come to you yet?
Not at all. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, not one bit.
Yeah.
I've definitely refined that a lot.
Yeah.
Like after that Corona happened in 2020.
Yeah.
And then so I was kind of like not forced into a corner, but it was like you need to make decisions now. It can't just be keep going with the flow, which I kind of liked. And I think I lived in Innsbruck till like May, like 2 months of Corona there. And then I was like, what am I doing? And then I was going to go down the trade route and I was going to go try and do like an apprenticeship in Queenstown.
Okay.
And I never got into New Zealand. So I got back to Sydney.
Of course, yeah.
I did 2 weeks of lockdown in like a 5-star hotel for free, which was incredible. Everyone else hated the hotel quarantine. I had the time of my life. It was awesome. Yeah.
Amazing.
It was like this corner room in Darling Harbour. And they like brought me food every day. And like I got over the jet lag and I could chill. I didn't have to go out and catch up with anyone for 2 weeks. It was amazing. Yeah. And then I couldn't get into New Zealand. Yeah. And that was a bit sad. And then it was like, all right, what am I going to do? And that's when I did my first winter in Australia. I went down for like 6 weeks. A bit longer maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, because Australia went very hard on the lockdowns, didn't they? What was
they
it like
did.
there?
And it was more like like when I got back, I was so shocked. People were surfing and out sipping lattes in Bondi. And it was like, it was pretty normal. And shit only got real in 2021.
Okay. So you did your 2 weeks in your 5-star hotel for quarantine.
Yeah.
And then you come out and everyone's surfing. Life's pretty much like normal.
Fully. It was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I was back surfing again, skating, climbing. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went and did this season. That was loads of fun. I was just bartending in Jindabyne.
Okay.
So going up to Perisher each day. And that was a lot of fun. Yeah. So a really good crew there. Some people from Mayrhofen, a few others. But yeah, it was really fun season.
Nice.
And then I came back and it was kind of all right, you're in Australia. You can't leave. What are you going to do? Stage. And I went back to that skate, surf, snow shop that I was working at back in 2017 and got a job doing like all their online stuff, all like the e-commerce like sales, but also a lot of the stuff on the website as well. And that was awesome. Super small business, but I got to do bits of everything. And because it was like it was a family run business, it was really cool like that I could actually have a say in certain things, in how we did things and changing process and speeding things up and whatever it was. But and the discounts are awesome too, obviously. Yeah. Being able to like call a rep and get like a snowboard for 60% off is awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of perks.
So you said that you were working on the website and e-commerce side of things. Is that something you'd done before? Because you didn't go to study it, right?
No, not at all. It was.
So how'd you figure that out?
It was just like figuring out, I think it's called Shopify, the software. And it was just like learning as we go with like SEO and tags and putting things in. And it was I loved it, having that kind of control over how things looked and being in that kind of industry, I guess, talking with these like reps and what we're going to sell, all this kind of thing.
Cool.
It was super exciting, but it was like one role covering loads of things.
Yeah.
It weren't enough people. It was like so much. It's like one person does everything. So I'm like needing to run upstairs to go grip a skateboard or to whatever it is, fit a snowboard boot, something like that, or send out a package or reply to a customer call that got, a flipper instead of their pair of skis they ordered because there was loads of people doing the online and there was all sorts of things going on.
Okay.
So that kind of got to me at a point. I was like, all right, this is
too many different jobs to do.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so that's when I kind of got to the point where I was like, all right, I need to kind of figure out something else. And so lots of conversations with my brother, with my girlfriend at the time, like started a LinkedIn page, had like an hour meeting with a kind of a family friend who had started and sold like heaps of HR employment companies.
Oh, wow.
And just made my resume and my LinkedIn just visible pretty much. Not like anything fancy, just like that it will actually be noticed given my experience in the corporate world, which was nothing.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, made it, I was approachable pretty much for these organizations. And then I just went and applied to heaps of different companies in like entry-level roles.
What was your thought process then? Were you like, I am going to try and go for specific types of jobs? Or were you just like, I am still happy to do anything at this point?
I was happy to do anything, having these conversations, like the entry point, if you don't have a degree or experience, is like a base level sales role.
Okay.
And like I could talk, I was always fine in that realm.
Yeah.
And that's all sales is. And then I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn and they were like, oh, are you this person's brother? Because we had the same last name. I was like, yeah. And they were like, oh, it says you're open for work on LinkedIn. And we went through this whole interview process.
Okay.
And I love the interview process. Like a lot of people dread it.
I hate it. Yeah.
I had so much fun. Like the research, the preparing for everything, listening to podcasts from the like organization CEO or whatever, and like writing little bits down and like preparing all your different examples for questions.
You liked that?
I loved it.
What?
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but like, I think it was
cool.
just, it felt like there was momentum.
Yeah.
More so than before. And there was like 5 interviews with so many different people. And I was like, who's this person? What's that person? And then that was like 5 interviews with that initial one. That didn't work out. But then I was like super motivated and applied for like however many jobs a day. And then I got a call back from Vimeo that they were starting an offices in APAC in Australia. And that was the one that I was like, I knew and I was super excited about.
Yeah.
And I'd like accidentally uploaded my resume twice because the first one I uploaded was the wrong one or something. There was hundreds of applicants and I was like, this isn't going to work well.
So not off to a smooth start.
No. And then I had this first interview and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was like super easy to talk with
so cool.
Who was my boss for a long time.
Yeah.
And we had a great chat. It was super chill. He was like giving me tips for the next interviews. He's like, go learn this acronym, go do this thing. I want you to get this. Like,
wow,
go for it.
That's amazing.
And then this was a month after the other job said no. And then I got a call from them and they were like, we want to offer you the job. And I was like, this was the day after my first interview at Vimeo. And I was like, that's super exciting. First time, like, they told me what a salary was and all of this, like how much it would be. And I was like, give me 3 days. And then I went back and I was like, how quick can we do the other interviews to Vimeo? And they set me up 3 interviews over like 20 hours in 3 different continents. And then like, yeah, Monday morning I had an Excel task I had to complete, like this maths thing. Went and did it on my lunch break. And then, yeah, they called me in the afternoon. They were like, congratulations.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was just like, and that was still while I was at my other job. Like I ran out and I was like, I got an important call.
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got the job at Vimeo. That's sick.
Yeah, it was wild to me without
that's
any
the one
experience.
you wanted as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just like, that's super cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible. And I had like a few key people in my life then that were like, just do it, like see what happens.
Yeah.
And if you get it, go and do it for 12 to 18 months. And if you save some money and if you don't like it, you can go back to doing whatever.
Yeah. So you've got this job with basically very little experience you had sales experience though. Was it a sales job?
Yeah, but it's very different to what I was used to. It was like sitting at a computer for 8 hours a day, talking to prospects about how and why they wanted to use video and directing them in the right path. There was a lot to learn, and there wasn't anyone else in my region who was doing the same job as me. Like I was employee number 4. And so it was all kind of figuring a lot of things out, early meetings with New York, late meetings with London. And yeah, it was really cool being there from the beginning. Like it was a crazy experience. Yeah.
Slightly different to kind of working in the gas stuff.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Wow. I think you must be the only person I've ever met that enjoys the interview process and application process.
I mean, the application, the applying for loads of them and sending in cover letters isn't as fun, but the actual conversations I like a lot.
That's so cool.
I think as well a part of that is these interviewers are used to talking to people who are, especially for those roles, who've just come out of university.
Right.
And they've maybe done an internship and they're just saying all the right things.
Yeah.
Super cookie cutter approach.
Okay.
And I think going in with my lack of experience and just being a normal person who's like super keen to learn and doing it for the right reasons, I think it made a bit of a difference.
So you get the job at Vimeo. What happens after that? Are you just working there full time, or what was the situation?
Yeah, it was the first time I was like 9 to 5, one location, office, that sort of thing. It was a lot of working from home.
Okay.
Which was really nice, but also hard. To just be stuck at home all the time without the option to go into the office a few days a week. But it also meant I could like surf on my lunch break and just chill on a Monday morning. And
cool.
So it's not the worst thing. But yeah, that year 2021 was when lockdown happened for like 3 months in Australia. So there was a lot of like having that job for that was a real blessing to be able to have consistent work throughout that whole experience. Yeah,
because it did hit Australia pretty hard, or like the lockdown in Australia was very strict. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, it was full. There was like a 5K radius we could go and do stuff in. Like everything was closed, obviously. Right. And then it was just, if you get caught, like there was policemen walking around checking your address on your driver's license to see if you were more than 5Ks out of your radius. Whoa. Like it was full on, yeah. That's hectic. Luckily, I had 2 awesome roommates, 2 really good friends of mine who... Yeah, like we just had like fun, whatever parties every Saturday night. And then like it was an awesome time. And in the days we had like climbing, skating, surfing within that 5K radius we could go and do. So you could still do those things. Yeah. And we discovered like heaps of awesome like bouldering spots that we could go climb that were right by our house that we never knew about. So it was a bit of a blessing that time. Okay. Yeah. How was your experience at Vimeo? Are you still there? Are you still working for them, or? I'm not now. No. But it was awesome. There was like multiple roles throughout the experience, and I feel super lucky that like things worked out the way they did, because people had been stuck in that SDR role in London and New York for ages. Right. So I was super lucky that opportunities opened up with like promotions and being able to go to New Zealand for 4 months and like work from there whilst doing a season, which was really cool. Wow. And I learned so much about so many different organizations. And my job was pretty much talking to people
about how they want to use video in their organization, which is super fun. It got to a point that I think, I don't know, I got a bit, not over it, but there was some changes made in the organization where I was talking with much bigger organizations, and that it was just moving a bit too quick for me. Okay. And I did, 1 year in that new role, and then I quit 2-3 weeks ago now.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty recent.
Oh, wow.
But that was coming for a bit of time. There was a lot of conversations I had about, what's next? What shall I do? This sort of thing. And it didn't align with what I wanted to do anymore. Incredible experience. I learned so much, and it's changed everything for me in my opportunities now moving forward, in the way that I look at the world, and being like, I can go to any of these cities and go and try and find a job there, which is like amazing. And, work from home or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So when you were working for Vimeo, did you say you went to New Zealand for a bit as well?
Yeah, so I went to Queenstown for like 4 months there, and I was just working from like a co-working space.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And how was that? Was that during winter or summer?
That was in winter.
Okay, so you were able to do a bit of snowboarding out there and everything? Yeah,
it was super weird. It was like...
Weird?
Yeah, I was like doing a 9-to-5 job on a season.
Yeah, how was it?
So strange. I was like... I mean, it was kind of cool. I could go snowboard in the mornings because of the time difference. And I was living really close to Remarkable, so I could go snowboard for a few hours, head into work, and then, I'd work till like 7:37 or something, which is like 5 p.m. Sydney time. It was a lot more relaxed than any season I'd ever done.
Really?
Yeah, it was a lot more. There was a lot more routine. I was living out of town, so I couldn't really go out that much.
Okay.
But at the same time, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed like the balance and the routine of it all, for sure.
So 3 weeks ago, you packed it in?
Yeah, like July 3 was my last day. So 2 weeks.
No way. That's like super fresh.
Yeah, and then I flew out here to Europe on July 5. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So what is your plans now?
So now I'm here for another 2 weeks in Europe, week and a half-ish, and then just visiting some pals down in like Italy and up in the UK, and then I'm heading over to South America for a few months of snowboarding, and then just to travel around till the end of the year. Cool. Maybe longer, I'm not sure. But it's the first time in my life that I've got a little bit of savings and time and like nowhere to be, and that's super nice.
Yeah. So
figuring things out again.
Okay, so you haven't got any job lined up at the minute? You're just going to see what happens and...
Completely. Yeah. And I've got a much better idea of what I'm good at, what kind of roles would work for me, what kind of company I want to work for, their morals and principles, what the kind of companies that they work with. And so I'm super excited to get back into that world at some point, maybe working, 20 hours a week at the beginning. Yeah. I don't need to make a lot of money, I don't think, at the moment. But there's no job lined up. There's nothing next. It's a bit of just, traveling, snowboarding, and then if I run out of money, I'll have to act pretty smart and move pretty quick. But
But you can get a job pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
This is the thing, is like with all the experience that you've had over the years, even if it wasn't a corporate job, for example, remotely, you can go and work at a rental, you can go do this, you can go instructing,
Yes.
You're set up.
So it's not super, stressful. I definitely feel more empowered in that sense than ever to just be like, go till you've got X amount left and then go figure something out. And sure, the job market in tech at the moment is incredibly difficult, but I think, there's always different things going on, and it feels pretty nice to have that kind of flexibility to be able to go do all these things. Yeah.
That's so cool. So that brings us to today. That brings us to now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back in Mayrhofen, having a chat with me. Perfect.
Crazy. Honestly, full circle. It's wild. Yeah.
That is wild. All right. So we will move on to the questions that I ask everyone, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Just a quick interruption to give a shout out to show supporters Palm and Pine Skincare, the award-winning sunscreen brand for the everyday athlete. If someone was planning on only doing one season, Where would you recommend them to go and why?
Oh, that's an awesome question. One season. Canada.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know where in Canada, but this is hard, Gina. I can't give you one. Give me I think I'd say to this person, what do you want from the season? And if they wanted really good snow and to get heaps of powder and to have a really unique experience, go to Hakuba, go to Japan, or like Niseko or something. Like that'll be amazing.
Have you been?
I was just there for like 3 weeks at the end of last year,
Okay.
and it was like the best snow I've ever experienced. Like go do that. The visa's a bit more work. But Europe is just awesome because there's so many options, and like you don't ever feel stuck really as much. Like Zillertal here in Austria is amazing because you've got however many resorts up the whole valley, and you can see so many different things. It's not crazy expensive. It's a new culture. It's a lot of fun. But then Canada's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like Disneyland for kids in so many of these resorts. It's great. Disneyland for adults, sorry.
Yeah.
In so many of these resorts. It's wild.
Awesome. Cool.
So I've given you like three places. Yeah. One place. Yeah. Do your research.
That's perfect.
Awesome.
That's perfect. Loads of information. Right.
Yeah.
What's the best job you've ever done on a season and the worst job and why?
Worst job was Harakiri. Standing out in
I'm so going to get
-10.
cancelled.
Yeah.
By these locals.
Yeah,
They're
for
gonna
sure.
kill me.
Selling hot dogs and getting screamed at by locals and whatever because I wouldn't
Yeah.
give them to them for free or a sample. Like
Yeah.
that's easily the worst, I think.
Yeah. Hot dog stand at Harakiri.
Yeah. That
Brutal.
was no good. Best job on a season? I think would have to be zip lining. Like that was loads of fun.
Nice.
Like just doing that all day. And
Yeah.
you'd finish with like loads of energy to go climbing or whatever. So much fun.
Yeah. You'd have loads of energy at 19 though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe if I did it now, I'd be like, get me home. I'm only doing like 6 hours. I'm done.
Perfect. So what's the best place you've ever visited and why? And this can be on your travels as well.
Best place?
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go, like Japan was incredible.
Really?
I'd been building it up for so long, and then being there and meeting loads of the locals and snowboarding some of the most incredible like lines in incredible conditions every day was amazing. Like I wanted to go back. I want to go back and do like a proper season there for sure. Yeah.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 28
Are you?
now. Yeah.
Ah, just a whippersnapper. No, I was just wondering because obviously the visas and things like that for Canada, and I just wanted to.
So that's also been changed to 35.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
This is the long term plan.
Aw.
Yeah.
Stoked. I'm too old for that, but yeah.
I'll send you a postcard.
Yeah, thanks so
you can come
much.
visit me. Yeah.
You're too kind. Yeah, I'll come and visit.
Yeah. That's better than a
All
postcard
right,
for sure. Yeah.
What do you prefer, winter seasons or summer seasons?
I like, again, sorry, this is a shit answer. I like spring. It's so good. It's just my favorite time anywhere where you can snowboard all day and bike in the evenings.
That's a
Or
great
climb,
answer. I
or
think
skate.
Stu said the same thing.
Did he?
I think so,
okay.
yeah.
But like Mayrhofen in March and April,
Yeah.
when everyone snowboards in the park all day and then we all go hang out at the skate park or Gumpen till like 9 or 10 p.m. Like so much fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. Yeah. Perfect. Where and when was your favourite season and why?
It would have to be the second season I did here in Mayrhofen,
Oh, yeah?
purely based on the friends and the people around, like the community here that season. We'd all come back for our second, or some people their third, all super close, snowboarded loads, like partied heaps, sure, but like that 5 months went by in a flash and it was so much fun, and there was no doubt in my mind at the end of that I was going back. And we had like amazing snow and we got to see so much more of the valley and like it's incredible here. Like the amount of cool opportunities and things you can do. And I think, mainly based on the people around you. Yeah, we just had so much fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Where is your favourite place to snowboard?
Oh, that's hard too.
Do you ski?
We normally did 1 day a season where we take skis up just to remind ourselves we can do it, and that it's quite a bit of fun. I had some really fun days with Diego and Eli Ruse.
Oh yeah.
Where we went up and rented skis from Manny's and tried some mini jumps and rails and stuff, and really
Did you ski when you were younger then, or
no?
You just put them on and went for it?
Yeah, exactly. We got one lesson in Whistler from a ski instructor.
Okay.
It was a top to bottom run. It wasn't a lesson. It was from the top of the gondola to the valley. And it was do this, put your weight here, do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you kind of knew the basics, and having a lot of snowboarding experience, you kind of knew what you were doing anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
To an extent. The first time I ever put on skis, I was 13 in Threadbow and just went for it by myself on my brother's skis. Mm-hmm. And that was horrible.
Oh, God.
That was really bad. Tangled and I never want to do this again.
Okay.
And then it took 6-7 years later for me to try it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, where is your favourite place to snowboard?
Favorite place to snowboard? I'd have to say all round it would be Zillertal.
Really?
I think as a whole season, the variety you've got here is amazing. And if we're taking everything into account, conditions, crowds, terrain, it's amazing here.
Yeah, and the lift pass coverage is pretty good.
Yeah,
for the whole valley. So if one place is super busy, you can usually find somewhere else that's going to be a bit quieter. Or
exactly.
Yeah.
You're never lining up for too long. And I mean, Whistler's incredible, but the lines are just the crowds are so hectic, and everything gets really tracked out really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, on a good powder day, because everyone's there for that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's it's 2 mountains. There's so much terrain. It's incredible. But yeah, here it's so cool. It's so good. Yeah. And the parks are great. Yeah.
In your opinion, what's the best thing about season life or being a seasonaire in general?
Interesting. I don't know. I think just the snowboarding every day. I love that. Having no responsibility for X amount of time. If you're young and you've got the opportunity, go do that for a few years and know what that feels like. Just doing what you want and not making too much money, making enough to get by to do the fun stuff. And I learned so much from that in now kind of filling my days with that as much as I can, and understanding that that's just as, if not more so valuable than the 9 to 5, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Can you tell us about a challenge or difficulty you faced during your seasonaire journey, and what did you learn from it? Big question.
Big question. This is a job interview question.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but you love job interviews,
yeah.
So we're fine.
Got me. Shit. A challenge I faced on a season. I'd say it would have been that first season in Mayrhofen when I was just down in the dumps. And those in that kind of in between few weeks when I was working that real horrible job and living in this place by myself, and it was just all pretty horrible, and having to pinch myself quite a bit and be it's shit, it'll work out.
Yeah.
Things will keep moving.
Yeah,
you're here and it'll keep going on. You've just got to stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did.
I did, and things worked out really well.
Yeah,
and
nice.
I think that's what happens when you stay somewhere long enough.
Yeah.
Which I don't tend to do very well, but we're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is with those times as well, quite often when it is the kind of worst of the worst, you just need to push that a little bit further and you're through to the good bit, Yeah. You usually find that is when you're closest to the best part.
100%.
Which is weird, because that's the point where you want to bail. You're like, I could go home now.
Yeah.
And it'll be really easy to just get out of here, go home, go to comfort. But sometimes push through.
Yeah, it's weird, the going home thing. That never really... There was a lot of other things that crossed my mind, but the going back to Australia was not
a thing.
It was never really an option. I don't know. For that time anyway, for that. I think it's the one thing I've always had, which is a lot of people, I guess it doesn't come as naturally to them, is just being able to talk to a lot of people about what's going on easily. Because a lot of people go through shit, real bad times, and they feel like they're bringing people down by sharing that with them. And letting people know, I might be looking for something else for work, and this happened and that happened. And just being able to talk, because it's for the first few years, it's an experience in a season, but you get to an age and you're it's your life, you know, and it shouldn't all be good times 24/7.
Yeah.
And you need people to talk too about that stuff for sure.
What's one thing you wish you had known before going on your first season?
That I could have got that same job without spending $6,000. That I could have taken another route to being an instructor.
Yes.
Other than that, it was, and that you're supposed to tip the taxi drivers there.
Okay.
And a very awkward experience my first night in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but other than that, not much. I think it was all about, I was going in with a very open mind of just like learn as we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but tipping in Canada, a thing.
You got to tip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's helpful. That'll be helpful to someone listening, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any opportunities or unlikely experiences that stand out to you that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't have left Australia in the first place?
Yeah, I think everything I've done.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think... Sure, yeah, going back to Australia, I had a few opportunities, but those wouldn't have been there if I didn't go do what I've done and what I did. Yeah, I think pretty much all of the opportunities at exciting jobs in Canada and here, and all the people I met, and how lucky I am now to come to Europe and have so many friends to go visit.
Yeah.
To not have to do any, like, I don't know, much staying in hotels or anything like that. I can just go visit friends all around the continent. Like, I'm super lucky for that.
Yeah. Throughout your travels, which place feels most like home to you?
Definitely Austria still.
Yeah?
Like, coming back here for sure. I spent most of my 20s here. Not most of my 20s, but I spent the most amount of time here in my 20s. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. When you're away from home, what do you miss most about your home country?
Beaches.
Okay.
And yeah, bits of family for sure. Like, mum's great.
Mum's great.
Yeah.
Shout out, mum.
Yeah, shout out to mum.
What's your mum's name?
Julo.
Julo.
Well, Julie, she likes to be called Yuli now, but Ben Gervais have always just gone with Julo.
Julo.
Yeah. No,
Shout
she's a
out
legend.
Julo.
Yeah, she yeah.
Awesome.
So going back, yeah, surfing for sure.
Yeah, not much surfing here in Austria.
No, not loads. Not loads at all. Yeah. Yeah, there's some awesome places to visit in Australia, like incredible beaches and that sort of thing for sure.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Stick with things a little bit longer than give up if you want to. Like guitar, languages, skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing. I always kind of jumped between them a lot. And now it means I'm just below average at a lot of things. And I never got like really good at any of them, which I'm fine with because now I can go and dabble in bits and it's loads of fun.
Yeah.
But there was never an opportunity to be like, in my later years anyway, to be really good and pursue something.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you still could, but...
That's a nice attitude. Yeah. Good positivity,
you
for
still,
sure.
You still could. Maybe not pro snowboarding or something like that, but you definitely could. But this is it. It's, again, that little, just push through that little difficult part.
Yeah.
Get to the other side.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same throughout my whole life. I've just been like, it's too difficult now. I'm going to just not bother.
Yeah. Chuck it in the too hard basket, move on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. On the topic of advice, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received and what's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
I should probably start with worst. Worst piece of advice. I don't know if I've got one. There would have been bits, and I think they just kind of left my brain about it, like a lot of instructing and stuff, how to treat different people and whatever. And I think a lot of it just went to shit. The best bits of advice I've received. Yeah, it'd have to be, and you can apply this to snowboarding or like work. It would have to be like, just try it for X amount of time. And then if it doesn't work, move on with like a trick or a job or whatever it is. But just go for it. And then once you've got the opportunity in your hand, then decide whether you want to do it or not. But I think giving up too early can be pretty detrimental.
We talk a lot about mentors on the show. Did you have any mentors who helped you along in your journey?
Any mentors? I think, throughout the whole experiences, there was more friends I'd look at who I who I learned a lot from, like Diego, Fletcher, my brother, a lot of these people. But mentors like kind of came into my life a bit more when I got back to Australia and started getting into the working space and being able to seek that vulnerable advice. Yeah, for sure. I think I got in a bad habit of kind of putting people on a pedestal.
Oh, really?
And being like, oh, that's what success looks like. Let's go for that.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to have these conversations where you step back and you're like, okay, how should I approach this situation,
100%. Whatever
it is? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of do that in the way that like you'll see people on podcasts or like even on reels and things like that on Instagram, and you'll be like, I'm going to stick by that. That's great advice and stuff. But you do always have to take a step back and have a think about it from different points of view as well. Because one kind of bit of advice might not suit every circumstance, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm just blabbering on, but yeah.
For sure, though, I think that's a huge point. And I think look at everything with a bit of critique and don't just believe everything. And if you do believe it, don't feel like you have to live by that.
Yeah.
And anything you've said in the past as well, like if you say or believe in something, a lot of people feel like they have to stick to that. Otherwise they're a shit talker or something if they change their mind a week later. And it's completely healthy to reassess weekly,
100%,
monthly. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Don't let your ego get in the way.
Yeah,
That's
no way. Yeah.
Don't let your ego get in the way of saying you might have been wrong about something in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that can actually stunt you and your growth.
Big time.
Literally keep you in a bad place.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There we go. Do you have any quotes or sayings that you live by?
I wouldn't say live by. I'd say the changing my mind on a regular basis is a nice one. And not intentionally, but feeling like just reassessing what I believe in, how I should be living my life. A quote I like from James Dean was I think it's dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die tomorrow. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of with the idea of whatever you're doing, you can do it forever, but live every day with, the idea that you're going to go and get after it.
Yeah.
And then just there's like an 8-minute song by Baz Luhrmann called Wear Sunscreen. I don't know if you've heard it. Yeah.
I have. Yeah.
I think every piece of advice and every quote in that song is amazing.
Yeah.
So go listen to that if you haven't.
Yeah. Sunscreen, Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah,
what a track. Wow.
Oh, it's so good. I chucked this on and it's a great tune.
Do you have any books, movies, podcasts or publications which you can recommend to our listeners? Or can you name one thing that's inspired you recently, or both?
Okay. The books, the game changers for me were Insight by Tasha Eurich, which is all about self-awareness and emotional intelligence.
Oh, cool.
And just amazing stories about how she went into organizations and spoke to CEOs about how maybe they were the problem and how to communicate with people and how much to reflect and how much to think about how you interpret yourself and how other people interpret you. That was incredible. Dopamine Nation, another really good book. Ikigai, an awesome book about how to live really long, kind of looking into the lives of individuals who've lived over 100 and how they did it in specific communities.
Wow.
And then podcasts, I think everyone's going to go and say like the Andrew Huberman one, which is great. Like I love a lot of that for sure. Rich Roll I think he has really interesting conversations with a lot of people from different backgrounds. I love his podcast.
Cool.
Specific one with Salema Masakela is amazing. About his journey in like being a commentator at the X Games and living in that community. Yeah.
Cool.
Really good podcast.
What's something that has inspired you recently?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's like a really good friend I've got back in Australia and how she's gone from leaving her country to go through and kind of pave her own way in Australia is pretty incredible, and getting like heaps of promotions and just being like, and she's just smashing it. And that's always super inspiring.
Do you want to give her a shout out?
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Laura, 100%.
What's one myth about Seasonaire life that you would like to debunk?
I think the biggest myth is that you have to set heaps of things up. You have to set up a job. You have to set up a place. You have to do all of this or it's not going to work. And a lot of the time, if you're the kind of person who can go and talk to people, you can get, if you've got a bit saved, go get an Airbnb, go live in a hostel for a month, go talk to people. And the job and the place you'll end up with will probably be a lot better than if you planned it from the UK or Australia or wherever.
Yeah. It's difficult with things like the visa system now with Brexit and stuff like that. That's where people might have, because they have to get a work permit, so they have to secure a job first here before they even come. But you're right.
Oh, no, Brexit, it's so horrible. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, if you can do that, so people in Europe, for example, or if you've got a European passport, you can come out and you can just,
Yeah, exactly. Or even like if you get the visa to Canada or Japan or whatever, if you don't need a job to show them, or you can even do a job for a few months and then feel that you can quit and do something else. Yeah.
Now I have to ask my mum's favourite question, Marglenda. What's one thing you take with you everywhere? And do you have any travel hacks?
An item that I take with me everywhere?
Yeah, so like, is there something you take with you everywhere you travel?
Yeah, a skateboard everywhere.
Oh, yeah?
Like, no doubt, yeah. And now it's skateboard and, like, climbing shoes for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's, like, the only thing that will keep me sane in some city when I'm traveling or whatever.
Nice.
I can't think of any, like, specific other thing. A travel hack.
Yeah.
I think... This is a super weird one, but for like long haul flights, no one likes wearing shoes, but you don't want to be that guy to take your socks off. So I think carrying wet wipes with you.
Okay.
So that you can take your shoes off and then like give your feet a cheeky wet wipe, even if they're in a fine state, just so that people know that it's not you if there's a smell coming from somewhere. And then you don't have to wear shoes for the whole flight. Like for like a 12-hour flight, to be wearing socks for your feet not to breathe, that's a lot. Yeah, wet wipes. There you go.
That's such a cool and random fact.
Yeah, but they're good.
I love it.
Also, when you like stop off in Singapore or something, you can go and have like a wet wipe shower and you just feel a lot better. Yeah.
Perfect. So wet wipes in your hand luggage. Done.
Wet wipes. Yeah,
perfect.
For sure. And then travel lounges if you stop off in Singapore. You don't need to have like some fancy American Express card or be an airline member. You go pay $40 and you can have free food and drink for 3 hours and a shower in your stopover.
Oh, really?
Yeah, insane.
Cool.
Super fun.
Those are awesome travel hacks.
If you happen to be in Singapore, yeah.
So overall, biggest lesson learned from living and working abroad?
I think it's the learning how to manage your time and how long to stay in one place. Whether to push through or whether to realize like, okay, this is good. I need to move on now. And finding that balance is super tricky because... And especially in seasons, things get really good after. Normally, it's like, 12 to 18 months. Things get awesome. You've got some really good friends. And then like the next season's always awesome. And then it's hard to be like, when do you call it? When do you move on?
Yeah.
And like, when do I keep evolving? Yeah. So just constantly reassessing. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Monthly basis.
Is there anything that seasonal life has brought to your current life?
I think just the search for fun and adventure on a regular basis, not being able to sit there for a day and do absolutely nothing if I've got a day off now. Like you want to go and do stuff as much as you can. And also that now like it opens your eyes up to the world and you want to go travel a lot more and see a lot of places for sure.
If you hadn't have gone and done your first season, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Wow. I don't know. I think I'd be like maybe traveling somewhere. I think, or I would have got sucked into uni or something. I don't know. I think I would have eventually landed somewhere where I was snowboarding.
Yeah.
For a bit. Yeah. I never thought about that.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Crazy.
What would I be doing? This is a quite difficult one, actually. If you were in my shoes, what's one question that you would have asked that I didn't?
That is an awesome question. I don't know. What where would you be okay being in 5 years? Where would you be satisfied? Like, where would you want to be? Where do you think you'll be?
Yeah.
And yeah, 5 or 10, I don't know. And my answer to that?
Yeah.
You want that as well?
I
okay.
do.
Yeah. In 5 years, I'd like to be probably in one place. I don't know where that is. Close to the mountains, hopefully close to a beach as well. with a garage filled with equipment and a coffee table with cool coffee table books on them.
Yeah, nice.
And really good people around me.
Yeah.
With an interesting job that's actually creating impact in the world, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you would like to nominate to come and have a chat with me?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you need to get, Fletcher on the show for sure.
Yes, 100%.
Fletcher Austin. One of the funniest humans. Diego as well, I think.
Diego definitely needs to, when I first started, he did say he would come on. I don't know if he still would, but I really hope that he will. But you're going to see him, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go hang out with him and the kids for a week,
then,
so I'll convince him.
Yeah, convince him, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Have
you got any girls that you can nominate as well?
One of my roommates in Innsbruck, Jo,
mm-hmm.
she's like a crazy good skier.
Okay, cool.
Living in Innsbruck and traveling and doing windsurfing and I think she's done a lot of traveling and some really cool things in the ski windsurf world.
Is there anything you want to promote at all?
Yeah, go check out the Milky Shapes Instagram page and buy a skateboard. They're handcrafted in Italy.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. What's next for you, Maxi?
Figure out where I need to be, where I want to be. I think it'll be some city in Europe for at least 2 or 3 years,
mm-hmm.
Doing some kind of meaningful work at a company that's hopefully less than 50 people,
mm-hmm.
And where I can travel around Europe and snowboard a lot and surf and skateboard a lot.
Amazing. And what's one parting piece of advice for anyone thinking about either doing a season or starting a new adventure?
I'd say go and have lots of conversations with people,
mm-hmm.
even people you don't know, but always talking to people and putting yourself, step out of your comfort zone, whether that means finding people on LinkedIn who've done similar things or Facebook or Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are pretty open to having those conversations and helping you out. Diving into the deep end, going to the wrong place, the wrong job could set you on an interesting trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely just lots of conversations with people, put yourself out there. You'll slowly figure out where you should go, what you should be doing, for sure.
Excellent advice. Maxi, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure to hear your story in full and catch up with you after all this time. How long has it been? 1.5 years, something like that?
Yeah, it's been a chunk, for sure.
Yeah, I'll let you go on to enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Gina. It's been a lot of fun, really. I really appreciate it.
Not only did I love recording this one, it was an absolute joy to listen to it again during the edit. Thanks again to the legend that is Maxi Gering for coming on the show today. Do you know someone who's been thinking of becoming a Seasonaire or starting a new journey? Maybe you're sick of people saying, I wish I could do that, and asking for advice. If this sounds like you, it would mean the absolute world to me if you could spread the word and share the show with your mates. Every subscribe and share counts, and it really does make a difference. As always, thanks to Mike at Mike's Sports Bar for the studio space. Thanks to sponsors Dope Snow. Thanks to Mondo Wave for the music. And thanks to you guys for tuning in. See you all again next time. Yeah, on the topic of advice, what's one piece of advice? On the topic of advice, fucking hell.
You're okay.
I'm having a moment.
Dream as if you'll live forever, die. No, the other way around. Live as if, I've cooked this.
Die tomorrow.
Live as if you,